The night sky above Vega 9 burned in violent colors, a storm of green and violet lightning twisting across the frozen clouds. The wind howled like an animal, throwing shards of ice against the wreckage of a small human scout ship. Inside, Eli Ward fought with the emergency systems, his breath forming clouds in the freezing air. The last thing he remembered before the crash was the navigation computer screaming about magnetic interference. And now all he wanted was one thing: shelter. The temperature was dropping fast, -70 and falling. He grabbed a thermal pack, strapped on his oxygen mask, and stepped outside. His boots crunched on the glass-like surface of the alien snow, every step echoing in the silence. Around him stretched endless plains of blue frost and pillars of ice that glowed faintly from within. Like a sleeping world of crystal giants, Eli's radio was dead, and the ship's beacon had been fried by the storm. He muttered to himself, "Just find a cave, something to keep the wind out." But Vega 9 was not a world known for kindness. The air shimmered with strange lights, and somewhere in the distance a low hum pulsed through the ground, as if the planet itself was alive. He followed the vibration until he saw something impossible, a faint golden light beneath the snow, forming a path like buried lanterns. His instincts told him to stay away, but his human need for survival pushed him forward. After an hour of walking, he reached the source, a dome of translucent crystal half buried in the ice, its surface breathing with warmth. He touched it and the structure responded. Opening like a living flower, warm air rushed out, carrying the scent of something sweet and metallic. Inside, he saw tall figures moving gracefully, their silhouettes outlined by soft light. They turned toward him, their eyes reflecting the glow, not human eyes but bright and intelligent. Eli froze, his instincts screaming that he had stumbled into something sacred or forbidden. Then a voice spoke, clear and melodic. A traveler, a male traveler. The tallest of them stepped forward, her skin shimmering like polished silver with faint traces of violet beneath. Her hair floated as if underwater, and her eyes, deep blue with golden rings, studied him like he was both wonder and weapon. Eli raised his hand slowly. "I mean no harm, my ship crashed. I just need a place to rest." The alien woman tilted her head, and behind her, others began whispering in a strange melodic language. He couldn't understand the words, but one phrase repeated often: "The only man." She extended her hand toward him, her tone soft but commanding. "You are safe here, human. Follow us." They led him through curved hallways made of glowing crystal veins, the walls pulsing softly as if alive. Everywhere he looked, he saw alien women, different ages, different colors, all female. Some stared in shock, others with curiosity, and a few with something like fear. The one who spoke to him introduced herself. "I am Captain Solara, guardian of the frontier colony of Vera's Dawn. You are lucky we found you before the storm consumed you." Eli nodded, still trying to make sense of the place. "Are there no men here?" The captain's expression flickered, half amusement, half sadness. "Not for many generations, human. Not since the Great Divide." They brought him into a circular chamber filled with soft lights and a gentle hum that seemed to calm his heartbeat. She offered him a seat made of woven threads that shifted to his shape. He was grateful for the warmth but couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that everyone was watching him too closely. One of the younger aliens whispered to another, "The prophecy said he would come from the stars." Solara silenced her with a glance, then turned back to him. "Rest now, the Queen will wish to see you when the storm ends." "The Queen?" Eli asked, confused. "I didn't come here for politics. I just need shelter." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "On Vega 9, even shelter has its price." As he drifted to sleep, exhaustion overtaking him, he heard faint echoes in the hallway, voices discussing him in hushed tones. "He's real," one said. "The DNA match is perfect," another voice replied. "Then the Queen must decide his fate before sunrise." Eli's heartbeat quickened, but the warmth and exhaustion pulled him under. Outside, the storm roared louder, shaking the crystal domes, lightning tearing the sky in two. And far above, in the tallest spire of the alien city, Queen Soraya watched the storm through a wall of glass, her eyes reflecting the distant glow of Eli's crashed ship. She whispered to herself, "The stars have sent him at last, the last man of Earth." Beneath the silence of the storm, the Queen smiled, a smile that carried promise and danger in equal measure. Eli had come looking only for shelter, but Vega 9 had already decided he would give them far more than his thanks. The storm outside was nothing compared to the one now waiting for him inside the hearts of the alien women. When Eli woke, the storm outside had calmed, leaving behind a world covered in shimmering frost. The crystal walls of his room glowed softly. Casting pale blue light over his face, he blinked, realizing he was lying on a bed that seemed to float above the ground, held up by invisible energy. The warmth felt almost human. Too human. Then he remembered where he was and who had brought him here. Alien women, an entire colony of them, and their mysterious queen who wanted to see him. Before he could gather his thoughts, the door slid open silently. 2 tall guards entered, their armor silver and sleek, their faces hidden behind mirrored visors. One of them spoke in a clear tone. "The queen awaits, human." Eli sat up, still dizzy from exhaustion. "Can I at least get something to eat first?" The guard didn't answer, only motioned toward the corridor. He sighed and followed, his curiosity growing stronger than his fear. They walked through a long hallway filled with moving light. Alien murals shimmered on the walls, battlefields, stars, cities rising and falling. Eli noticed something strange. Every figure in the carvings was female. Not one man, not a single male form anywhere. He muttered to himself, "What kind of world is this?" As they reached the main chamber, the air changed. It felt heavier, charged with something electric. The doors opened, and there she was, Queen Soraya, tall and radiant, seated on a throne that looked like it was carved from a living gem. Her eyes glowed faintly gold, and her hair flowed in slow motion, as if space itself moved around her. She watched him with an expression that was impossible to read, half curiosity, half control. "Welcome, Eli, Ward of Earth," she said softly, her voice echoing like music across the room. "You know my name?" he asked, surprised. "We have your ship's data core. Our systems translated it. Humanity's records are..." "Fascinating," she said with a small smile. Eli's stomach tightened. "If you already know who I am, then you know I'm just an engineer. I don't have what you're looking for." Soraya stood slowly, her long robe shimmering with light. "Oh, but you do, human. You carry what our world has lost," he frowned. "You mean technology?" She shook her head. "No. Something rarer, something living." He didn't understand, but her tone made him uneasy. The queen circled him slowly, studying him as if he were a piece of ancient art. Her scent was strange, sweet, metallic, and somehow intoxicating. "Centuries ago," she began, "our kind faced extinction. The male genetic line vanished in the Great Divide. Our people survived only through cloning and selective rebirth. But it cost us something vital." She stopped in front of him, eyes locked with his. "Emotion, growth, and chaos. The things that make life unpredictable. The things your kind carries effortlessly." Eli shook his head. "I'm not here to fix a species. I just crashed. That's all." Her lips curved into a smile that made his pulse quicken. "And yet fate brings you to the only planet that remembers your kind." The guard stepped aside as a group of attendants entered, carrying floating trays of food, fruits that glowed faintly, crystal water that rippled with energy. Eli hadn't eaten in days, and despite his nerves, hunger won. Soraya watched him quietly, her gaze never leaving his face. Finally, she said, "You may stay here safe, warm, and fed, but in return you must help us restore balance." He stopped chewing. "What kind of help?" Her answer was slow, deliberate. "You are the first true male this planet has seen in over 500 years. Our science cannot replicate what you are. Your presence alone changes things." Eli set the food down. No, I didn't sign up for this. I just want to repair my ship and go home." The queen's expression hardened slightly. "Home? You mean the dying blue world that sent you to wander the stars alone?" Her voice carried both pity and steel. "You are safer here and more valued," she added, her tone softening again. Eli took a step back. "Valued how?" She smiled. "In ways you will come to understand." Before he could respond, a second woman entered, Leora. The queen's chief advisor. Her presence was sharper, her movements more controlled. Unlike Soraya, her eyes held no warmth, only suspicion. "My queen," Leora said, bowing slightly. "The council grows restless. They do not trust this outsider." Soraya's tone stayed calm. "The council will obey. He is under my protection." Leora glanced at Eli, her expression unreadable, then said quietly, "Protection can become prison, Majesty." Soraya ignored the warning, turning back to Eli. "You will stay in the central wing. Do not leave without permission." Eli wanted to argue, but the look in her eyes told him it wasn't a request. As he was led away, he caught Leora's gaze one last time. For a brief moment, he thought he saw pity in her eyes, a silent warning hidden behind her calm mask. When he reached his new chamber, the guard sealed the door behind him with a soft hum. He sat on the edge of the bed, his heart racing. Somewhere beyond the walls, he could hear faint voices chanting in an alien tongue. And though he didn't understand the words, the tone was clear, reverence and fear. He looked up at the glowing ceiling and whispered to himself, "I only wanted shelter, but I think I just became part of something much bigger." Outside, in the Queen's chamber, Soraya watched the storm clouds gathering again. Her reflection shimmered in the glass as she whispered to herself, "He will stay, even if he does not yet understand why." Eli woke the next morning to the soft hum of machinery hidden beneath the floor. The crystal walls around him changed color slowly, from blue to gold, as if imitating a sunrise. For a brief second, he almost forgot he was trapped on an alien planet, surrounded by beings who didn't quite see him as human anymore. Then the door opened and reality returned. Leora entered quietly, her posture graceful but alert. She carried a thin tray of food, something that looked like fruit, but shimmered faintly like glass. "You should eat," she said softly. Avoiding his eyes, Eli nodded. "Thanks, but I'd rather understand what's happening here." She hesitated, then said, "You are in the city of Vera's Dawn, the last surviving colony of Vega 9, the Queen rules it. And every decision, every life belongs to her." He frowned. "And me?" "You," she said carefully, "are an anomaly. Something the Queen believes can change everything." He sighed. "I'm just a man who crashed his ship. I'm not some kind of miracle." Leora's expression softened for a second. "That's what they all said at first." He looked up sharply. "They? You mean there were others?" Her eyes flickered with regret. "Eat your meal, human. And stay cautious of kindness. It's the most dangerous thing here." Before he could ask more, she left, the door closing behind her with a quiet hiss. Later that day, Soraya's guards escorted him outside. The air in the city was warm, filled with glowing dust that floated like golden pollen. Buildings of crystal and light rose high above him, connected by bridges that shimmered like water. Everywhere he looked, there were alien women, hundreds of them, each one unique, each stopping to stare at him. Their gazes were filled with curiosity, admiration, and something deeper, a longing he didn't understand. He felt their eyes follow him, whispers spreading like fire through the crowd. "The prophecy," someone murmured. "The last man has come." Soraya appeared beside him, her robe flowing like living silk. "This city has waited for you," she said. "Our people lost their balance long ago, but your presence may restore it." Eli forced a smile. "By walking around and letting everyone stare?" She laughed softly. "You underestimate your value, human." He crossed his arms. "I'd rather fix my ship and get off this planet." Her eyes gleamed with quiet amusement. "And go where? You have no ship, no signal, and no one coming." They walked together through the market district. Every stall was filled with glowing food, floating jewelry, and strange technology. The alien women smiled at him, offering gifts, fruit, and flowers that changed color in his hands. He felt trapped between wonder and fear. Everything here looked perfect, yet nothing felt right. "This place," he whispered. "It's beautiful, but it doesn't feel free." Soraya stopped walking, her expression unreadable. "Freedom is chaos, and chaos destroyed us once. We do not seek it again." Her words chilled him more than the planet's cold air ever could. As they reached the city center, a large monument towered before them. It depicted a woman standing alone beneath a broken sun. At her feet, smaller figures bowed, their faces erased. Eli felt a strange weight in his chest. "Who is she?" "The first mother," Soraya said quietly. "She created life after the Great Divide, but she failed to restore the balance. That is why the Queen must try again." "And I'm part of that plan?" Soraya turned to face him, her tone suddenly softer. "You could be more than part of it. You could rule beside me." He froze. "Rule? You mean, as what, a symbol?" She smiled. "As a partner, perhaps. Or as a beginning." Eli shook his head, taking a step back. "You don't even know me." Her smile faded slightly, replaced by something sharper. "I know enough, human. You are strong, intelligent, and untouched by the corruption that consumed our males. that makes you valuable beyond measure. He could feel the invisible weight of her words pressing against him. Every instinct screamed that her interest wasn't personal. It was political, biological, or both. As the sun, or whatever Vega 9 called its light, faded behind the crystal towers, he tried to find peace in the quiet of his chamber, but peace didn't come outside. Alien music filled the air, slow and haunting. He looked through the window and saw groups of women dancing in circles around the monument, their voices rising in a ritual chant, and in the distance, he saw Leora watching him from a balcony, her eyes filled with warning. That night he couldn't sleep. Every sound, every whisper in the corridors seemed to carry his name. "Eli Ward," they whispered. "The key, the cure." The chosen. When he finally stood to leave his room, he found the door unlocked. He walked into the silent halls, following a faint blue glow leading downward. There, deep under the palace, he found rows of pods, hundreds of them, each containing faint shapes. Human shapes. He felt his stomach twist. Inside the pods were the remains of other humans, some long dead, some still preserved. And then he saw something worse, a holographic file projected on the wall, labeled Genetic Trial Human Seed. Eli staggered back. Realizing the truth, he wasn't the first. He was the last attempt. Behind him, a soft voice whispered, "Now you understand." He turned and saw Leora, her face shadowed by the faint blue light. Her voice was quiet, trembling. "They won't let you leave, Eli. Not as long as you can breathe." He stared at her, heart pounding. "Then help me escape." Her answer came slowly. "You'll need more than me to fight a queen." And as the hum of the pods filled the silence, Eli realized that his shelter had become a cage, and the city of temptation was not built to please him. It was built to trap him. Eli stood frozen, his eyes locked on the rows of glowing pods. The blue light painted everything in cold shades of horror. Each pod held a silent reminder of how far the alien world had gone in their desperate search for rebirth. He could see the faint outlines of human faces, some peaceful, others twisted in fear. These weren't experiments. They were graves disguised as science. He felt his stomach twist, anger and disbelief mixing into something sharp. Leora moved closer, her voice low. "They found the first human explorers a century ago. Only 2 survived the crash. The Queen promised to protect them." Eli turned toward her, his face pale, and instead she used them. Leora nodded slowly. "Their genetic material was taken, studied, replicated, but it degraded too fast. They failed, and the Queen ordered all evidence hidden." Eli's fists clenched. "So that's why she wanted me. Not because of who I am, but what I can give her." Leora's eyes softened. "It's not you she wants. It's the idea of you. The hope of controlling something that was lost." He looked around the chamber again, whispering, "You said the others failed. How many?" Leora hesitated before answering. 42. The number hit him harder than he expected. 42 lives. 42 dreams of survival turned into experiments. Eli's voice cracked slightly. "And you helped her?" Her expression faltered. "I was born into her rule. We were raised to believe the Queen's word was law. But I learned the truth when I found this place years ago." She looked away, guilt clouding her eyes. "I stayed to wait for someone different," Eli exhaled, his breath shaking. "Well, you found him. But I'm not staying here." Leora's gaze sharpened. "You can't escape easily. The storm barrier is still active. It scrambles all transmissions and burns through ships that try to pass." "I'll find a way," he said, determination hardening his tone. "Humans always do." Leora gave a faint smile. "That's what makes you dangerous to her." Suddenly, the lights above them flickered red. A deep alarm began to echo through the corridors. "She knows we're here," Leora whispered, grabbing his arm. "Come. This way." They ran through narrow tunnels beneath the chamber, the sound of armored footsteps following close behind. Energy bolts struck the walls beside them, sending shards of light scattering. Eli ducked behind a support beam, breathing hard. "What happens if they catch us?" "They won't take you alive," she said flatly. She can't risk losing control again. They reached a maintenance corridor leading to the palace's outer section. Leora pressed her hand against a panel and the wall split open, revealing a small hangar filled with broken machines. "This is where old shuttles are kept," she said quickly. "Some still have power cores. Maybe one can help you send a signal." Eli rushed to the nearest console. The screen flickered with alien symbols. But he recognized enough. Energy grid, power relay, distress beacon. He started rerouting power from one of the dormant shuttles. Leora watched him nervously. You know how to use this? He smirked faintly. I'm an engineer, remember? I fix broken things. As the system hummed to life, the floor shook violently. The Queen's voice echoed through hidden speakers. Calm but terrifying. Eli Ward, you misunderstand your purpose here. You cannot leave Vega 9. Your destiny is entwined with ours. Her voice filled the entire hangar like a god's whisper. Eli shouted back, You call this destiny? You're stealing lives to rebuild your empire. The Queen's tone didn't change. Empires are built from sacrifice, human. Yours will be remembered with honor. He ignored her. Focusing on the beacon controls, the console flashed green. Signal ready. But before he could activate it, the doors burst open. Soraya herself entered. Her robe glowing like molten gold, her eyes blazing with fury and something else. Betrayal. Behind her, guards raised their weapons. Leora stepped in front of Eli. Don't! She shouted. He's not your prisoner. Soraya's voice cracked like thunder. You dare protect him after all I've given you? Leora's hands trembled, but she didn't move. You gave us nothing but fear. The Queen's expression softened for a moment, sadness flickering behind her anger. You don't understand, child, she said softly. Without him, our race will fade into silence. We need him. Eli stood up, facing her directly. You don't need me. You need control, and that's why you'll always fail. Soraya's golden eyes met his, and for a brief second something human crossed her face. Regret, perhaps, or shame. Then she lifted her hand, energy swirling in her palm. Eli slammed his hand on the beacon control. A burst of light filled the hangar as the distress signal shot through the storm barrier. Cutting across the void, the Queen screamed, the shockwave knocking everyone to the ground. The hangar lights went dark and the storm outside began to rage again. Through the chaos, Eli felt Leora pulling him to his feet. We have to go, she said. The beacon will bring someone, but it'll bring them here. Eli looked back once more at the Queen, who stood silently amidst the sparks and smoke. Her voice was no longer filled with power but sorrow. You've doomed us both. Human, she whispered as they escaped into the tunnels. The world above trembled. Eli didn't look back. He only whispered under his breath, I didn't come to be your savior. I came to survive. But deep inside, he knew survival had already turned into something much bigger. A war for freedom. The tunnels beneath the palace shook as explosions rolled through the crystal walls. The sound of distant alarms echoed like thunder in the frozen veins of Vega 9. Eli and Leora ran through the narrow passages, the blue light flickering wildly around them. Behind them, the Queen's guards were closing in, their metallic footsteps pounding against the glassy floor. The air burned with static energy, the storm above now feeding into the city's power grid. Every time lightning struck, the walls lit up with strange symbols glowing like angry stars. Eli stumbled, but Leora caught his arm, her voice urgent. This way. We must reach the surface before the reactor fails. He nodded, his lungs burning. How far? Not far enough, she whispered. But we can make it if we don't stop. They burst into a large chamber filled with machinery, massive engines that once powered Vega 9's atmosphere domes. Most were dead now, their cores cracked, leaking faint streams of light. Eli spotted a control console still active and rushed toward it. If the distress beacon had worked, then Earth or the nearest human fleet could already be tracking his signal. But if the Queen managed to shut it down first, his chance would vanish. He slammed his hand onto the console, fingers flying across the alien interface. Leora looked around nervously. What are you doing? Boosting the signal, he said. If I can amplify the beacon through this grid, it'll punch through the storm clouds completely. She frowned. That will overload the city's shield network. Then we'll give them a show they won't forget, he muttered. He typed in the final command, the console flashing red. A deafening hum filled the air, and arcs of light danced through the machinery. Suddenly, the chamber doors exploded open, and Queen Soraya stepped in, her robe torn, her golden eyes fierce but wet with grief. Enough, she shouted, her voice echoing across the chamber. Eli Ward, you don't understand what you're destroying. He turned, standing between her and the console. I understand perfectly. You built a paradise on the bones of others. Her tone softened. You call it cruelty, I call it survival. Leora stepped forward. At what cost, my queen? We've lost ourselves. Soraya's voice broke slightly. Without him, we have no future. Vega 9 dies with me. Eli took a slow breath, his eyes steady. Maybe that's the point. Maybe you need to start again without chains. For a long moment, none of them moved, the hum of the machines the only sound. Then Soraya lowered her hand, her anger dimming into sorrow. You remind me of what we were before the Great Divide, she whispered. Before we traded freedom for survival. Eli met her gaze. Then prove it. Let me go. Let your people live their own lives. Her golden eyes glimmered with emotion, and for a heartbeat she looked less like a queen and more like a lonely soul. Finally she nodded. Go. Before I change my mind, Leora stared in disbelief. You're letting him leave. Soraya smiled faintly. No one leaves Vega 9 unchanged. Child, they fled through the final tunnel, the storm roaring louder as the power grid began to collapse. Outside, the sky blazed with light, giant arcs of electricity stretching from the horizon to the clouds. The crystal towers cracked under the pressure, raining fragments of blue fire across the city. Leora shielded her eyes, shouting over the chaos, Where do we go now? Eli pointed to the distance. There. My ship's wreck. It still has a backup transponder. Maybe I can route it through the beacon. They ran across the frozen plain, the wind cutting through them like knives behind them. Vega 9's great city burned in silence, its domes collapsing like dying stars. Eli reached the wreckage, his hands shaking as he powered up the transponder. Static filled the screen, then a faint voice broke through. This is Earth Fleet. Signal received, triangulating coordinates. He laughed breathlessly. They heard us. Leora looked up at the sky, her eyes wide. Will they destroy us? Eli glanced at her. They'll come to help, if they know there's someone still alive. Before he could say more, a shadow fell across them. High above, a massive ship emerged from the storm, black, angular, and human. The insignia of Earth's stellar navy gleamed across its hull. For the first time in years, Eli saw something that made his heart swell. Hope. The queen appeared on the ridge behind them. Her cloak whipping in the wind, she raised her voice. Go, human. The stars are yours again. Her tone was calm, almost proud. Eli hesitated, then turned toward her. Come with us. You don't have to die here, she smiled, her golden eyes reflecting the burning horizon. This world is mine to protect, even in its end, but tell your people. We were not all monsters, he nodded slowly. I'll remember. As the human ship descended, beams of light breaking through the storm, Leora turned to him. You saved more than yourself, Eli. You saved what was left of us, he looked at her. His voice quiet. No, Leora, you saved me. The storm faded, the sky turning pale as dawn touched the icy plains. Eli climbed aboard the rescue craft. Looking back one last time, the queen stood on the ridge, her figure framed by fire and light, a goddess fading into legend as the ship rose into orbit. He watched Vega 9 shrink beneath him. He whispered softly, I only wanted shelter, but I found a war, a world, and a reason to fight again. The stars stretched before him, endless and bright, and somewhere in the silence between worlds, humanity's beacon burned once more, proof that even in the coldest corners of the galaxy, the human spirit could never be contained.